I'm thrilled to be invited into the room, and congratulations, huge congratulations to Prime for keeping up such high volume and such high quality of the i5 project. It is, of course, dear to my heart, and I follow you, you're via the newsletters and my talks with some of you as we go from my new position here. So I'm just thrilled to be here and thrilled to see the development. I have prepared a few slides, and I'm so happy to see that I have some old friends in the room here, and I also have some new friends. So some of you will, for some of you, this will be a little bit like down the memory lane, I guess, with some of my, what I want to convey to you, because I very much strongly believe in the i5 idea that was formulated and developed quite some time ago. And of course, things have developed, and you have developed that as over the past years. So I also hope from you and to hear from your questions and the opportunities that you are seeing on a daily basis in the classroom and beyond. So I just find here my share my screen and find my slides right up there. Okay, yeah, here we go. So as you will know, and very much inspired from my time from all of you when I was working as the head of Prime in the UN office in New York, and all the work that we did at the time to try to sort of think how could we together create a program that could inspire what kind of leadership is needed for our own leadership education, what kind of skills are needed for us to provide our students in the classroom, and then again, what skills are needed for us as educators to actually bring those skills into leadership education. And I just thought it was tremendously inspiring to have the work and the collective aggregate examples from around the world in a number of disciplines, which I really appreciate, as I've seen what you've been working on here more recently, develop and materialize. So what I bring here today is just a few slides to remind ourselves about how important it actually is, what we do in the classroom, and how we are still ongoingly requested by our friends in business, but also elsewhere where we deliver our students to, and they get to have important positions in the world, and help drive the agenda towards sustainable development. Also, as you will know right now, I am the professor at Oxford University, and I'm also the director of the Smith School of Enterprise and the Environment. And in that capacity, I will just bring a few sort of examples from my own work here, my new position, from the kind of education that we are trying, very inspired from the i5 project, to engage in. And I'm just happy to say that where I travel here at Oxford and talk to people, for example, at the business school at Oxford University, people will say, yeah, we are doing the i5. We're very much doing the i5 program here. They just have also heard the rumors about what i5 is about. So I'm very, very pleased about that. But let me just start by reminding all of you, all of myself also, I really like this work by some of our friends, some of our economist friends. It's back 2019, where we have Jeff Sachs, we have Masukata, we have Rockström and other colleagues talking about what are the 6 transformations needed to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And here, as you will see, these are the 6 sort of routes, the transformations that they are calling for, and number 1 being very high focus on education, also on gender and equality, but the education is right up there at the top of what we need to focus on. And when that is said, I think it's important when we look upon the different countries we are embedded in, how in quite a number of those countries, education is having a bit of a hardship. These days, education from some governments, interestingly enough, are not getting the attention that is needed to actually drive the change that is going on. And this is in also unusual parts of the world, for example, where I have my own citizenship in the Scandinavian parts of the world in Denmark. education is ongoingly contested, and a lot of resources are sort of drawn away from the education than what it used to be. So I think that this is an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing challenge that we will need as university professors to also be aware of and engage in. I also put in yellow here on the slide the requirements that these colleagues of ours are sort of urging to put into the curriculum for us, and that is the focus on collaborative leadership by government, civil society, science, and business, bringing ourselves into, by the science, as partners, not doing this alone, but doing this collectively. And I hear ongoing this quest for collaborative leadership, and we know it's the Sustainable Development Goal number 17, call for leadership and partnership for leadership. I think this is something that is also very, very important for us as we engage in education in our institutions. Some of you will have seen my 1 in 3 slide here before. I still think it's very important to remind ourselves, and every time I present this number to new audiences, they are very surprised, that on a global basis, these are UNESCO statistics, on a global basis, higher education institutions, we give degrees to 220 million students every year globally. And 1/3 of these students, they actually come out of our institutions. They come out with a degree in business, management, law, or economics. It is not an inferior number of students that actually are within, you could say, within our reach. I'm not just talking about Prime here, but us generally as higher education institutions. And of course, I consider Prime a leading institution, a leading space where we have agreed a responsibility to take a role modeling, if you like, space here. So it is a huge responsibility for higher education institutions to think about carefully, not only the kind of knowledge we bring into the classroom, but in the I5 spirit also, how do we actually do this pedagogically? And we all know that there's still a lot of room to be conquered out there and to be done in this space. These are, I'm not going to go into sort of details here, but just to say that there is a huge demand for leadership skills towards thinking and rethinking the kind of societies that we have, think the political, economic, and business models that we engage in our societies. And this call is not just from Financial Times. This is also from ILO. It is from the World Economic Forum. It's from UNEP and a lot of other institutions who are calling for the transformation of our the skills our students engage in. Interestingly enough, it's not just the STEM kind of skills. It's not just the technology use. It's not just the quest for us to gear up on understanding the technology and the use of AI, for example. This is, of course, a sort of common denominator for what we need to step up on this. But here is the World Economic Forum asking for students and for our alumni to have reasoning, problem solving, ideation, you know, the kind of imagination about what could the world look like, and not just the fear of, seems like we're better at imagining how the world would fall into pieces than actually imagining what could the world look like. Analytical thinking, innovation, active learning, and learning strategies, complex problem solving. And again, you will all know, of course, that the World Economic Forum is not like some kind of leftish NGO thinking. These are actually representative of global business and global policy-making thinking. There is a serious need for these skills to bring that into the classroom. And when I ask some of my students here today, so to what extent do you actually show this slide and ask them, to what extent are we good enough as educators to bring these kind of skills for you to develop into the classroom? It somehow divides the students, and it spurs a lot of discussions and a lot of debate amongst the students of how could we actually do this even better? Because oftentimes we fall back on traditional ways of engaging our students in the professing style. I know I'm probably talking to the wrong audience here, because you will all be very much engaging your students in other ways than what we used to many years ago. I think there's another another sort of thing that I wanted to bring to you, and I would love to hear your thinking about and how you work with this in a business school setting. I think it's fair to say that the people, the person, the ideal person, if you like, that we bring into the classroom in our textbooks and in the way we think about strategizing, we think about leadership, we think about finance, accounting, marketing, etc., is very much the homo economicus, the sort of the perfectly rational person making informed decisions based on correct information and perfect information, utility maximization and stable preferences. Whereas perhaps to live up to the kind of top 10 skills that the World Economic Forum and the sustainability skills that are requested by other of our audiences in the world, maybe there is a need for another type of human being to be considered in what we bring into the classroom. And now, just to use the Latin label, the homo reciprocans, or homo relational, we could say in English, which has much more to do with a kind of sense of empathy for the other, a sense of social responsibility, a sense of fairness, cooperation, and that social preferences also matter for decision make and relationships. And I used to sort of, compare these two, the homo economicus and the homo reciprocans, with, inspired from biology. So if we sort of think about the homo economicus, we will sort of think this is very much inspired by almost a Darwinian thinking, Darwin thinking, survival of the fittest in nature. There is another learning we could have from our friends in biology, and that is the learning I was recently reading from some of our friends in biology, having studied how fungi actually work in another way than the homo economicus. So an experiment with a little forest and putting some toxic fluidum around and the fringe of the forest, with the assumption that the trees who are at the edge of the forest, at the fringe, will die because of the toxic fluidity that is poured into the soil. Result being that these trees at the fringe, they do not die. They actually survive because of the fungus, the mushrooms, if you like, the fungus in the soil, all of them sort of spreading via their network a little bit of the toxicity and delivering a little bit to all the trees in the forest. So no one dies, but everybody shares and take a little bit, and then everybody survives. And I think that's sort of another kind of beautiful nature-based, you could say, inspiration for how we think about our societies and how we can also think differently, and how actually nature thinks differently also about how we act as a society. I'm not saying that the competitiveness that is an assumption behind the homo economicus is something that is wrong and should be completely deleted. I don't think it's even possible, but I'm suggesting here that there's another way of thinking about our societies that maybe we should consider bringing into our classrooms even more. And of course, I just want to say this is very much, of course, in the spirit and the sort of the basic assumption behind the I5 that you're all working with here. So I don't need to go into the details of this. And I know also, back in Prime, we developed this sort of idea about what are the pillars, what is the kind of roadmap for the transformation of management education that we sort of should focus on. And I just wanted to sort of hear that, because I know that number 2 on my slide here is the one that is really in focus for the I5 project. And that is very, very important, and often, as you will know more than anyone else, very, very often underappreciated for the way we think about the classroom, the way we think about ourselves as educators. But of course, I also think we still need to think about that curriculum change that is so needed. I have to say, even here where I am right now, I'm sort of, when I'm working and I'm sort of getting this new partnership with my colleagues at the Said Business School, as I mentioned, I think there's way too little in the business school still about climate change. There's way too little in the curriculum about biodiversity. There's way too little about nature and nature-based solutions. Even though, and even net zero, we could say decarbonization, is hardly there in the curriculum. Even though we know that business plays a huge role for actually making these things happen, to explore and innovate, how do we make nature-based solutions part of an innovative, a sort of an opportunity for businesses. So I think there's still something for us in terms of the curriculum to look upon the kind of knowledge. I want to just have a few slides here to round off with what are we doing at the Oxford Smith School. So this is very much about bringing public and private enterprise together based on research that is interdisciplinary and very much right now focused, you could say, on net zero emissions and sustainable development. Over the past year, since I joined, we are now refreshing our strategy and much more trying to take into account what I mentioned before, namely nature-based solutions and biodiversity and the whole sort of human face of the sustainable development agenda. And Oxford Smith School is actually a 16-year-old school that was sort of put not in the business school, but actually outside the business school here at Oxford. So it is in the university with the ambition of inviting scholars across the entire university, the business school, of course, to engage not just in their projects from their own disciplinary space, but any project that enters the Oxford Smith School comes with an interdisciplinary ambition. So you cannot be a program, you cannot be a project at the Smith School if you're not working across multiple disciplines. And that's one criteria. The other criteria has to do with impact, and that has to do with, if you enter the Oxford Smith School, you also to want to change the world with working with government or working with business in particular, but also working with civil society in a number of ways. And why I bring this slide to your attention is because this thinking very much permits the educational program we have here at the Smith School. So just to say, these are the 6 sort of areas that we engage in, the climate, energy, water, food, regenerative economy, and nature. And importantly, and I think this is very important from a business school perspective, we bring sort of the scientists together, biologists, volcanologists, we have veterinarians, anthropologists, physicists, chemists, all kinds of disciplines. But as you can see in the horizontal lines, finance, economics, enterprise, and law is what connects these disciplines. So I think it is, for me, coming here about 9 months ago, it was really interesting to see how I sort of saw a new role for the business school to actually serve as a kind of liaison, if you like, across the sciences, the hard sciences, and even the humanities, to have them speak to one another, to understand how can we actually contribute, how can we actually address some of the world's largest issues in terms of sustainability. And that's very much in research, but there is a direct spillover to our how we engage with our students in our program. So I'll just round off and say that we have in particular one very successful Master of Sustainability here at Oxford. We had last year more than 1,000 students applying for a 1-year Master of Sustainability here. And I only had 25 seats to offer. So only 25 students were invited on board to participate. So there's a huge, as you will know, there's a huge demand for students to engage. And what we do in this course, and what the students, we just received the evaluations right now for this year, what the students really like is the interdisciplinary nature of what we teach. And with that, also the impact. And the interdisciplinarity, you will know that is bringing all, you know, the different sciences together. But actually here in a university space, we have the privilege that we can bring the so-called earth sciences on board as well, together with the social sciences that we want from the management, the finance, the economics, and the wider business scholarship as well. And I bring this slide to sort of just focus on the impact. So this program is very much designed to have students engage with practice, and to have that done in a sort of visiting space. They're visiting the businesses are visiting us, and you will know that you do that in your own programs also a lot. I think what is really sort of struck me is the preparation that is put into preparing those who come and visit us, and also those our students visit. So we don't get that, as you will know, we try to avoid getting that usual branding, companies wanting, you know, to invite talents amongst our students to be interested to work for them when they become our alumni, but try to invite our the businesses to actually engage in showing the students some of the real challenges that they have to address in a daily basis. And it just takes a lot of preparation that I have not seen before in preparing on both sides for this kind of engagement. So again, as you will know, when we sort of engage and we sort of throw ourselves into the I5 space, it takes quite some reconsidering how you engage with students, how you engage the program, and how you make sure that the output is not just you could say a reiteration of the practice that is already done, but that we're actually giving students or engaging students in taking, I would rather put, that agency that is needed in terms of driving thinking forward when they become the practitioners that we hope they do become after they graduate from our institutions. So these were just my final, slides and my final words. And then I'm really looking forward to hearing, your reflections. And I would love to hear something about, what do you see as the new opportunities for the kind of skill sets that we need to bring into the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mette. That was really wonderful. I especially appreciated your anecdote on the fungi. I thought that really resonated well with how we can get out of our silos and work more interdisciplinary. So I'll go ahead and pause the recording at this point.